We are here today on my interview series, Finding Balance from Boardroom to Dining Room. And I am speaking to some fantastic women who are out there spreading their message to the world and still finding some way to balance their family life as well as connecting with friends, family, and clients. So today I have Stacy Boegem with me, and she is the self-proclaimed mentor to happy moms and mompreneurs. She works with clients as well as speaking, hosting workshops, and coaching and writing. So she is really out there. She used her experience as an attorney and a C-level business executive, certified coach, and entrepreneur support, and inspire her clients to create a business and life that work for them, not the other way around. She has appeared on a Wall Street Journal, New York One, Women E-News, and other publications. She earned her BA in philosophy from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and her JD from the Tulane University School of Law. She can be found at stacyboegem.com, and I am very, very honored and happy to have her on board here. So, Stacy, welcome.
Thanks, Krayl. It's good to be here. This is my first Google Hangout. So
I always like to start off the question and answer is just to find out a little bit how you got where you are, what twists and turns of your life brought you to this point, and if there's any highlights that you think really made a big difference, whether you're young or old, or if you've been on the same track your entire life.
I'm going to try to give you the short version because
we have half an hour. Don't be too short.
Yeah. So I practiced law in Manhattan and was really loving my career. I was on the partner track, and it was awesome. I met my husband in law school, and we were for a period of time in our careers at the same firm, which was really amazing because we worked, crazy New York lawyer hours, and so got to still see each other for lunch and commute to and from work together, and so life was great. And when I got pregnant, I was totally into the pregnancy and super, super excited to be a mom, but really had no idea what I was going to feel like after the little guy came. And when I was on my maternity leave and realized I was absolutely unprepared to go back, I was out for like 8 weeks, and I was supposed to go back 2 weeks later. And I was still about 50 pounds overweight, breastfeeding full-time, had no childcare coverage, and had no family around. And really didn't have any options. It was either go back full force. There was no kind of flexible on-ramp at my law firm that I was at the time, or leave the firm. And it was actually a very easy decision. I mean, I had the full support of my husband, and it was like, all right, let's get out of Dodge, because it was so clear where I was meant to be. And so at that time, it was like, okay, let's take a year to just completely fully indulge in parenthood. We were pretty sure that our little guy was probably the only one we were going to have. And so it was like, just take a year, fully indulge, don't worry about your career, and then at the end of that year, then figure out what's going to be next. And so that's what I did. I was like whole hog, fully into being a mom. And it was the most amazing time of my life. I made a lot of great new mom friends in my neighborhood in New York, and absolutely loved my time with him, and I'm incredibly connected with my son. But I was also suffering from a full-blown identity crisis. At the time, I had always identified as an ambitious, achieving professional woman with great education and being able to hang in, sophisticated crowds, et cetera, et cetera. And here I am now spending my days in yoga pants covered in spit up, pretty much only talking about, kid-related things. And fortunately, I met other women who were also really educated and interesting and all of that. And so the new mom community of friends that I made, I had so much in common with, and they, in many ways, were also suffering from a similar identity crisis as me.
I'm sure, yeah.
But that really...
Were they mainly professional women as well prior to having kids, I would think, in the city?
Exactly, yeah. And you end up finding that when you become a first-time mom, you end up making friends with other first-time moms. The veteran moms already have their mom friends and have their older kid that they're doing things with. And so yeah, my new mom friends were, attorneys and bankers, and this was New York, and so that's the what people do up there, or artists and filmmakers, that type of thing. So, so anyway, so at the end of that year, I was like, okay, it was really itching to figure out what was going to be next. And I had an amazing opportunity to work at a technology firm called Socialite, and it was a Web 2.0 company. I joined in a capacity of strategy and business development. I was the chief operating officer. It was awesome. I got to work at the office 3 days a week, work from home 2 days a week. It was everything about it was great. And I got to be in an entrepreneurial environment, which was really kind of the gateway for me, and like that gateway drug, like you needed more.
Yeah.
That's when I realized I needed to do something that was really more my baby and my own personal passion, and not work for somebody else in helping pursue their passion. And so, so I stayed with the company for about 6 months, and then got really serious about getting into that deep internal work of soul searching and really uncovering what was I meant to do in this world to be, most of service, and in a way that's rewarding and meaningful, and in a way that would not make me feel guilty for leaving my child to someone else's care for a certain number of hours. So pretty much all my choices after having my son, I just made through a different prism. They always had to pass that litmus test. Like, is this worth it? Is it rewarding enough? Even if it doesn't make very much money, it just needs to be something that I feel really good about doing. That's kind of
that was it.
Yeah.
And so how does that translate into your day-to-day now? Like you said, it was a big transition for you. How old is your son now?
He is 5, almost 5.5, if you ask me.
So he's 5 now. Yeah. So it's been a little while, and you've adjusted to being a mom. And so how does that translate into your day-to-day life with your son and with your family now?
What I teach in workshops and speaking, and what we end up coming back to in all the work that I do with clients is, and I don't believe there's such a thing as work-life balance, right? If we're ever looking to have balance, we're always going to be struggling, because, with anything, once two things are in balance, in order to stay there, it's a constant shift, right? Everything's always, in flux. And so you're constantly working really hard to stay right there. And so to me, going after something that rationally and intellectually is totally unattainable, really is a crazy endeavor. So I like to go for something that I call work-life synergy. And I define that as when the energy you spend, and I say energy as opposed to time, because as you know, you could spend 20 minutes of fully focused, present energy on something and get so much out of it, or you could spend 3 hours of your time on something but be completely distracted, unfocused, multitasking, and it's not quality. So I say when work-life synergy is when the energy that you spend is an accurate reflection of your clearly held values, priorities, and desired feelings. And
nice.
So, thanks.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm so clear that my time with my son is the highest value, super big priority, and I really just don't believe in having guilt or regret. So, almost everything I do kind of goes through, is this going to make me feel good? Is this in sync with my values, my priorities, and how I want to feel, or not? And it's like, right. When you put it that way, it ends up being pretty easy to pick and choose and to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Yeah. And a good example of that is I pretty much have a rule that, of all the different events that I go to, and whether it's my own events or networking functions, et cetera, I pretty much try to stick to only maximum one night per week, like the Monday through Friday week, where I will, be out of the house. Right. And it's not even off as much as that. Sometimes it's even less than that. But I'll never do back-to-back networking functions, Tuesday and Wednesday or anything like that. I mean, unless, if I absolutely can't help it, I might make it.
Do you find you network more during the day, or are you with your son and then at night is your networking time?
Well, at this point he's in kindergarten, so it has been a huge so much more time opened up. So that's been great. With the technology age, networking now, it's funky. I mean, you and I have never met in person, and here we are, right, from our virtual networking.
Right.
So, I network in all different kinds of ways, and I don't even like to use the word network because it sounds so stale, but yeah. I like to use the word connect, and I make connections with people really everywhere I go, but and then I'm very intentional about where I put my more focused energy on it. Femfessionals is a good example. You and I are both members of that. It's a great organization connecting women. And so, so I put a lot of energy into my role with Femfessionals, and then to my relationships, you know, online with like-minded women. And then I also put a lot of energy into the other women in my community who I think are just really inspiring and doing great things. You know, because I think there's also something to be said for supporting, you know, local business and kind of having a sisterhood of, you know, of strength in your own community.
Right, right. So that does bring me to well, your topic point brings me to one of my favorite topics is, so how do you find that you so you said you have a strong network of women in your community, and that you like to connect with them. How do you find that you're able to do that outside of the, you know, quote unquote networking events or scheduled events? Do you find time to connect with them? I mean, sometimes you do mix business and personal, but on a more personal level?
You know, it's always a challenge because, right, you know, like time is just one of those things that, you know, we only have so much, right? The funny thing is I do so much of my day-to-day work on the phone. You know, I have to be on the phone a lot with any kind of coaching client sessions. And so I'm great on the phone for that. I'm terrible on the phone when it comes to just, you know, hanging out, chatting. Like, I've never been a phone person. My older brother, when we were teenagers, like, he was the one that'd be on the phone for 3 hours a night, and not me. So I'm a very much like, you know, we might get on a call for like 90 seconds, get down to brass tacks, you know, make our plans, and then we'll talk about everything we're going to talk about when we see each other. So I love, you know, in-person interaction. I would much rather see somebody once every 2 months and go deep and, you know, and have a really great focused amount of time together, like go out to dinner and really, you know, rather than, you know, know on a day-to-day basis that you're on your way to bring your dry cleaning, and now you're going, you know, it's so the only people that I talk to like super regularly, you know, are my husband, my mom. You know, it's like, you know, other than that, like friends, I like in person. You know, I'll do a lunch with you know, I have a lot of like friend colleagues, like people that I've become really good friends with that are also, you know, entrepreneurs, mom entrepreneurs, and so we've, you know, a lot in common, and I'm really into masterminding and kind of troubleshooting each other's businesses and stuff like that. So that often ends up being like, let's meet, let's have lunch, or let's have breakfast, and let's focus on your business for 30 minutes, let's focus on my business for 30 minutes, and like, it's almost like a mutual coaching session, mastermind it out, and then, you know, of course, you also have some small talk and the friend interaction, and, you know, and that satisfies a lot of different categories.
Yeah, nice. Are there other tools that you use if you do not connect with them in person? So I guess it's a two-part question. Do you entertain away from your home or in your home? And then are there any tools that you use to stay connected with those people?
Yeah, I love to entertain, and we just bought a new house a year ago, and we're still, you know, kind of focusing on one room at a time, and I'm not in a huge rush to get it all done. I want to like kind of organically just find, you know, the things that I love. So I'm not afraid of entertaining with an empty living room. You know, to me, that's just more room to dance. Actually, right now, our empty living room has become like my studio space for when I do videos, and I also like to paint, and so I have my canvas and easel set up in there. So it's become like the video camera and the studio lighting and the canvas and easel. But yeah, I love to entertain. I host Passover Seder at my house every year. We host it for New Year's, and then we'll host like little dinner parties here and there, and you know, and pool parties out back with the kids. So love to do that. You know, and then like with everyone else these days, I feel like, you know, text messaging has become the new way. I mean, I'll have whole conversations with friends where I'll realize we have not spoken in months, but we're texting, and so we're in touch. Like, you know, we know what's going on with each other. And sometimes it's just those little itty bitty, like today when I was picking my son up at carpool, there's this little girl that he goes to school with who he just adores, but she's in pre-K and he's in K, and so their schedule doesn't overlap, but they know each other from summer camp, and they just adore each other. And so when I picked him up from carpool, I got a text message from her mom like, oh my God, you know, I just talked to my daughter, and she said she saw Jay on the playground, and it was so exciting. And you know, and I texted her back, and he reported the same thing to me. And that was pretty much the entire interaction. But there's still a connection. We're maintaining the relationship in that way. It's authentic, and and that it's just smooth. And I feel like that's how a lot of communication is going on these days. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, and to your point that there a lot of people are worried that technology is changing our relationships, which I agree it is changing them. But I think there are opportunities that you are more in touch. I know for myself that I'm more in touch with certain people because of technology. And then there are other people that maybe have not embraced certain technology and I'm less in touch with because of that. Whereas, I lean towards like you said, the text message. I use Boxer a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
No.
but I have some good friends that I communicate through that, and that has, I think I'm like yourself. I moved to where I live now in Tampa about 4 years ago now from the Northeast, and so it has really helped me keep in touch with those people that are on that system. But if they're not, I find myself, all right, I guess I better call and make an actual phone call. So technology has helped me, but then there's also some relationships that I know I have to work harder at to keep those going because of technology in a different way. So are there any other non-technology? I would say I know some of the people I've spoken to have people that help them, around the house, or help them. Maybe they might have a VA for their business, or they have someone that helps them at home to kind of try and balance all their schedules or time. Do you have anybody like that? And the answer could be no, but just interested because I know people are always curious about how to make it all work.
Yeah. So I like to say, and I did not invent this, so I do not take credit, but I wholeheartedly agree with this, that you can absolutely have it all, but you can't do it all. And
it's very true.
So I have a housekeeper that comes weekly, and every now and then every other week if we're really trying to push ourselves. But then, in that off week, I'll be like, Priscilla, can you come tomorrow? I'm desperate. So absolutely, I have a housekeeper. When I was living in New York, the funny thing is, even though I'm further along in my business and more successful now than I was 2 years ago, I had a part-time assistant. Well, I had a full-time part-time assistant, like on staff, and had her working 20 hours a week then, and I don't have one now, and that is pretty much because of my child's school schedule. The number of hours available in the day is just much more now that he's in kindergarten. Before, I was doing all this crazy stuff when he was only in school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 hours in the morning, and that was it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So it opens up a lot. I'm in desperate need of someone. I had somebody over this summer, and it was terrific. But then she had to move on because she was finishing her graduate school program. So I have to remember to look at the camera. I want to just look at your beautiful face. So I need somebody.
Maybe if someone's listening, they'll pipe in and
yeah.
know that they're there.
If you are here's my thing. I feel like it's easy to find an assistant who I can tell what to do and they'll do it. It's hard to find someone who will tell me what to do, and that's what I need. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and I need someone who is going to be like, okay, these are the different commitments you have coming up. These are the different deadlines, dates, etc. And they're going to kind of think ahead and anticipate, what's next. And hey, Stacy, do you need me to, etc. And so that I'm not, because otherwise it's hard if you're trying to manage somebody else and have to constantly delegate down. You're spending the time delegating where you could just be doing it yourself, and that's a terrible trap. And so, so that's the trick right now, is finding that right person who, can kind of run on her own and tell me, like, I need more like a chief operating officer.
Right.
Yeah.
So back to, okay, so you have a housekeeper and occasional, weekly or biweekly, and just as you were saying, you can have it all, but you can't do it all. How does that? Because I'm always encouraging my clients to not feel guilty about those type of people or services that you enlist to help you out. So as you said, how do you feel week to week when that person comes in or doesn't come in? And what kind of stress does that help with, or what are you able to get done, and those type of things. So, like I said, I'm just trying to always talk people through feeling guilty about not being able to do it all.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. To me,
You don't have the perfect wife guilt, quote unquote.
not at all. To
Yeah.
me, the perfect wife is a happy wife. And so, yeah, how do I feel when Priscilla shows up every other Thursday to help clean my house? Incredibly grateful. That's how I feel. And I also know that she's incredibly grateful because she's doing work. We treat her very, very nicely. It's a comfortable, safe environment. She's making good money. It's a win-win situation. It's all good.
Yeah.
And she also will stick around and hang out with my little guy, and he loves her, and so it's all good. To me, in order to avoid feelings of guilt, again, you go back to focusing your energy and your time on what's in line with your own values and priorities. And it is not a priority for me to have my son wear a made-by-hand Halloween costume. It is not a priority. It is important to me that he have a good Halloween experience, but for me, buying a costume at Party City is just as good as trying to make something. That's not my skill set. And so I have absolutely no guilt about the fact that I don't even try to make a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
It's just not in sync with my priorities. But I would have guilt if I were never present for his activities, right? Or if I weren't around and didn't have a dialogue with his teacher, I'd have guilt because it is important to me. It's a high value and high priority for me to be connected to his life and know what's going on with him and all of that. So, I just think if we're focusing our time and our energy on things that are really in sync with what matters to us, there's no room for guilt. There's just, there's no place at the table.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And so just so we have about 5 more minutes left, so I want to make sure that we touch on all of the things that we promised. And so you talked about holidays a little bit. So since we're heading into the holidays here for this year, what are your plans, and how do you plan on kind of balancing all of that? Will you travel? Will you host at home? Or and then in terms of your business, how will that play out?
But it's pretty much kind of like in maintenance mode and gearing up for the next year. And, I think if you go into the season knowing that, it's all good. To me, it's back to what are my values and priorities. For me, I want to be completely indulging in the holiday season, be present with my family. I don't want to be stressed out. And so that means, kind of tabling this and being able to focus. Yeah.
Well, we are just about to wrap it up, so I just wanted to, is there anything that you are excited about, Stacy, and where can everybody find you? I'm going to post everything in the show notes, so they'll also be able to link to it, but if they're not able to get there, I want to give the opportunity. Where can they find you online and on your social media?
Thanks for that, Krayl. My website is my name, stacyboegem.com. You can also find it by going to thehappinessagenda.com. They both point to the same place. Right now, what I'm excited about is I've really just opened up. My readers are mostly moms and mompreneurs, moms that are starting businesses or in that early stages. I've got a lot of people who read my content who want to start a business but aren't really quite sure what to do first. And so I've just opened up my blog for guest submissions, and I have the kind of guidelines for the submission guidelines for what kind of posts I'm looking for. But I'm at that point where I just want to feed more and more content and to my readers that's going to be really of high value to them, and also allow more women entrepreneurs an opportunity to reach more of an audience with their own tips and advice and all that. So if anybody's watching who does have great content for moms and mompreneurs to live a happier life, to start their business off on the right foot, if you hold the key to work-life balance, whatever it is that you think is really going to be a useful tool, I would love if you check out the blog and read the submission guidelines and submit your post. It can be written or video content, and all the rules are in there. But I'm really excited about that because to me it's just further being able to kind of share the work of other women and with other women and just connect and elevate everyone while doing it. So that's the blog is now called the Momstermind blog.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So I know I'm really proud of myself with that made up word. I'm not usually good at that kind of thing, but yeah, the Momstermind, I'm digging it. So.
That's awesome. Well, that sounds great, and hopefully we have some people that might take advantage of that, and they can then find you there. So I really appreciate your time and taking out the time and learning the new technology, and hopefully this will help you in the future as well. And I know that everybody has really gotten some great pieces of advice from you on life balance synergy. I might have to change my interview from finding your balance to finding your synergy or something. But it's always great to hear how different female entrepreneurs are balancing our quest to have the perfect home / perfect home and perfect work and life and all of that, and just knowing that whatever your perfect is what really counts, and not reaching for some sort of goal that's unattainable, and appreciating your life where you are. So I'm sure that everyone will come or go and check you out. And again, we'll make sure that's in the show notes as well as on the YouTube channel. But I really appreciate you taking the time, Stacy, and being here with me tonight.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, Krayl. This was actually really fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. And everybody else, make sure that you check out Stacy's site at stacyboegem.com. And you can also find all this information on appealingplan.com. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.